Hello and welcome back to Zero to Hero. Today we have a special episode with just me and Nate talking about personal branding. And this is a really fun one because Nate, if you haven't seen him on social media, of course you've seen him on social media. It's freaking Nate Vernuga. Let's jump into it. So starting off, I'm just curious about your thoughts, definition. What is a personal brand to you?
Yeah, so to me, a personal brand, it really is how someone is kind of trying to put themselves out there through social media and other means. Well, I think of it as marketing and salesmanship and all of that. We're all constantly marketing ourselves, even if we don't really realize it. The fact that I decided to walk out of the house with a shirt on, that's because I'm trying to send a message to people, and that is I'm not a crazy person who walks around without a shirt on, and social media is just kind of like that next level of it. And so is the personal branding, where you're trying to, through a digital space maybe, or in some business fashion, kind of market yourself as an individual. And maybe that's because you're trying to cultivate a brand because you're an influencer and you want to gain notoriety through social media or something like that. Maybe it's just because you're tied to something important, I think of a lot of politicians, you could consider them to be personal branding. So yeah, just anything like that where maybe you want to just get yourself out there and really show off who you are more.
Obviously, there's politicians, there's crazy business owners and all the things. But for those who are just professionals or around a small business, how important is personal branding for them? Is that something they can just not worry about, or is it? What's your take on that for them?
My take on it is that it really depends on your goals. I think that there are lots of businesses where I have no idea who is the owner. I probably don't know anyone there except the employees who I am dealing with whenever, I go there to enjoy their product or whatever. And that is how they operate, and they do just fine. But I definitely think that those businesses have probably moved in with that goal of that they want their brand to be the recognizable element. Well, other ones, they might have owners who they want to be in the limelight a bit more. They might want to be more involved in their community or something like that. And in those cases, I think that's where it's really valuable to build a personal brand as well, if you're planning to, go beyond just the branding of your business.
I think that's a really good point. And honestly, I see that a lot in your own brand. Nate Vernuga, just Nathan in general. So because if you guys don't know, Nate isn't involved with a lot of things. Can you just list off a few of the things you're involved with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the marketing manager for Be Caffeinated, and Be Caffeinated is a very community-focused brand. So just by association of that, I'm out in public a lot. I'm often at events. People just tend to know who I am. So just by virtue of that, I think it's important for me to keep up my social media, because a lot of times, while people know Be Caffeinated, they also know Nate. They have that strong association of me with the brand. So it's important for them to be able to find me through social media and other means if they need to talk to me about something relating to the brand. It's also valuable because I do lots of events in the community. I'm very involved with stuff like cleanups. I'm a Chattanooga Park steward. I try to be an advocate for local politics and stuff like that I think helps our community out, and just be creating a space on social media that's positive and creates a safe space for people in our area. So yeah, just all of that combined, plus all the other things I do with Hive Think and the Great Eyes Festival and all of that, I just have a lot going on for people are seeing me. And if people are seeing you, I think it's important that you take time to kind of cultivate your image, think about how you want to be seen, not just, actually out there in the community, but also in that digital space, because people will probably go looking for you there.
That's true. So one thing I'm really curious about in general, but I think also I'm just curious about your position in your situation, being involved in so many different things, bouncing the line of, okay, what's my brand? But I'm also kind of representing these other brands. So how do you walk that line of authenticity, being yourself, but then also existing, being connected to these other entities?
Yeah, I think what's really valuable there is something that we've talked about before, and that's being genuine. For instance, I do not consider myself to be a social media influencer by any means. And there are tons of social media influencers who I think are great people who do a really great job of cultivating a brand online and also do a great job of representing products that they utilize. But there are also lots of social media influencers where, you give them a couple $100 and they're going to talk about how, man, I just love this product that I have no reason to ever use. I've obviously never used before, and they'll just hawk and talk about it all the time. And I definitely do not try to do that. Like, obviously I'm doing things and I want to talk about them with people through like my own social media. I see nothing wrong with that, but I think it really is how you're going about it. Like, oftentimes when I'm speaking about things related to Be Caffeinated, it won't be me going like, you guys should really go buy this new drink. You know, it's going to be more of Nate saying, hey, we're doing a cool event. Like, you know, we're doing this fun free event. I think you would have a good time at, I'm going to have a good time at, let's all go have a good time, you know, where that's less of me trying to hawk for the brand. And it's more of me just trying to build community and do something that I think people would be interested in. And same with like Green Eyes Festival, where like I'm so tied to that. So I share a lot of information about that. And that's, again, partly because I want people to feel involved with the brand and want to be excited for it, but it's also because I want to show people the process of building something cool like a festival. That's something where, as I've done more research and got more involved with it, there really are too many people who have talked about like the building blocks of doing something like that. So I'm trying to show off elements of that as we go through my personal social media.
I love that. And I've seen this honestly with some other people, which I think it's really neat, like this approach for personal branding. If you guys are YouTube watching people and you're familiar with Casey Neistat, who revolutionized the vlogging genre on YouTube, and the whole thing he was doing it for, besides he obviously loves video, he was in the process of building a business, Beam. It was him, like the story of building this thing, like documenting the process. And so I think that's really interesting for you, building out story. I love that. It's like you, but also this narrative of building up Green Eyes. So I'm really curious, like, how do you think about, you know, storytelling in social media is a big buzzword and is an important thing, but in particular, like, how do you think about storytelling when it comes to personal brand? Because just like in a networking event, you do have to tell the short version of your story a lot of times. And I'm just curious what that's like for you online. Is it weird? Is it hard? Is it easy? Like, or what's the general thought process?
Yeah. So honestly, with that, it comes across pretty easy to me, but I think that's just because I'm a very comfortable person with sharing with others. I think that's an important skill to have if you're wanting to get more involved with cultivating your personal brand, is being able to share things that are going on in your life, being able to think about how others might respond to those things going on and kind of have their thoughts in mind. I mean, obviously, like, it's your stuff, you know, it's your LinkedIn, it's your Instagram account, post whatever you want on there, you know, it's your platform. But I think there is something to be said about taking responsibility for the content that you're putting out and thinking about how it can affect others, the encouragement that can give to them. So I think just keeping all that in mind, the same way that, like, you're kind of saying, Michael, at like a networking event, you know, you don't want to like trauma dump like the first person that you meet. We've encountered that at networking events before. It did not lead usually to good connections. I think social media can be the same way, but at the same time, you want to be real. You know, you want to be real with people. You don't want to be fake. That's a big problem that I see with social media. Like, we talk to like our friends at Be the Change all the time, you know, where they very much are people where they often talk about how they don't like social media. They are very against it because social media can be a very negative space, especially for young people. And I think that's really sad and unfortunate that's like that for a lot of people, because it doesn't have to be that way. You know, you can put anything you want out there. Why can't we put out more positivity, put out more community, and focus on that?
Yeah. No, I think that's huge. So I'm curious, are there any other common like challenges do you think people face when they're attempting to build their personal brands, and how can they navigate it in a way that is professional yet authentic and positive, but also real without trauma? It's like a fine line to walk with it. I'm curious your take on how to go about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So a big challenge I've been doing is I'm trying to like post more on social media, because for a long time I didn't really post very much. And when I started trying to focus on my brand, that's when I really like kicked into the gear of like, okay, I need to be more consistent. Like, we're always preaching to people about their social media. You know, I need to do that for myself. And definitely I've had those moments of like the struggle of just, what do I have to talk about? You know, what do I have to put there in the world? And then how do I say something that isn't just, you know, the stereotypical, just showing the best parts, you know, and make it look like my life's amazing. I'm constantly traveling. I'm constantly doing all this fun stuff. But it's like, no, sometimes like I get sick. I just hang out at the house.
Yeah.
Sometimes my day sucks, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I had to just go work in the office for 8 hours, and then I went home. I ate chili and went to bed, you know. Sometimes that's just how it is. So I think a big thing with that is there's never like a boring day. People generally are interesting. You probably have cool stuff going on in your life, even if you aren't thinking about it, that you can be talking to people about that you can be showing off to people. So just really like thinking about the things that get you excited and thinking about how like there are probably other people out there who would care about that too. And a lot of times you can get like humanizing content from that too. Like a lot of my content is typically, you know, I go on lots of like outdoors like activities. So it's a lot of like hiking photos and stuff like that. And if you just looked at that, it'd be easy to go like, I guess Nate's like some extraordinary person who's like out there every single day on the mountain, stuff like that. And it's like I go on like a hike like once a week, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like I'm very careful with like cultivating content while I'm out there to be able to use in the future. And then sometimes it's just a picture of my cat. You know, because hey, I like my cats, and I bet a lot of other people also like their cats. So yeah, I think that's a big thing. Is like if you're trying to nail down your consistency, is like one, playing out content and thinking about when you're like in those moments and how to like get good content that's also genuine, and then also just not being afraid to just post something, you know, about who you are and being genuine. I think of like I think there's this famous example like Gary Vaynerchuk where like he posted like a video of like just like him like vibrating his leg or something. And like and I think if I remember right, the like idea of the video was like to say like just post something, you know.
Yeah.
He's like literally like I'm gonna post just like my legs shaking and my phone staring at and me talking, and this is gonna get like millions of likes and stuff like that, and like it did.
Yeah, no, it's pretty incredible, and it is, I think, a really helpful thing. I'll touch on this. A lot of times, the things you put the most effort in don't always do the best.
Yes.
And you'll just do a random off-the-cuff post, and then it just goes crazy, right? And
Absolutely.
like we've all experienced this. If you've been in the game, I'm sure you have or you will. And I think that's part of that idea of like, hey, just show up. It's cool as long as it's exciting to you, authentic to you. It should be good enough. You know, good enough to post, which I think brings us to a nice place where I think a lot of people struggle with the metrics and defining success and having the issue of checking their phone constantly. Like, did it go up? Did it go up? Did I get more than last time? And so I'm just curious, like, what does success look like for a personal brand if you are trying to grow it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one, it depends like obviously on like what your goals are, you know. If your goal is I just want to be, you know, uber famous. That's like the whole thing. I don't care about anything else. I just want to see that follower count go up. Then like there are great ways to do that that I don't recommend, but you can totally
we'll
do.
talk about those.
Yeah. But beyond that, I think like what's really valuable and you should be thinking about is impact. That's what I really think about. It's like I think I have less than 1,000 followers on Nate Fernuka right now, my like Instagram account. But what I do have is all those are genuine people who I know. None of them are random bots or anything like that. That's nearly 1,000 people who live in my city, who a lot of them I've never even met in person. And then I'll go to like a cleanup event and people are walking up to me and going, "Hey, are you Nate Fernuka?"
Wow,
and to me, like, that's huge. You know, that's what I care about is like people are coming up to me and saying like, "I love your post. I love that you're spreading positivity in my community. I'm here at this cleanup making a difference in my community because I follow you on Instagram." That's awesome. That's like the biggest victory to me. You know, it doesn't matter if I had like, you know, 1 million followers and they're all like dudes in India. Because my goal is I want to encourage Chattanoogan's to get more active in the communities. I want to build something better where I am. So to me, that's what matters is like thinking about like the impact standpoint. Yeah. And beyond that, also like, I think it's important to think about like other platforms and how to utilize them nowadays. Like, obviously, we think about TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that a lot, but I think like you can find a lot of value by building community and growing your brand on places like LinkedIn. Yeah. I've had incredible success there. I love LinkedIn actually. It's so easy to create engaging content there because they have so many like built-in tools like polls and stuff like that. And because like the connection tool is just great for finding people who are like-minded to you without having really just go like hunting for them like you have to on other platforms. But yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I would say I think something Nate has just either intuitively done or you spend a lot of effort. Either way, I'm not sure. Is that you, like Chris always says, start with why. And he's really leaning into what drives him personally to guide the kind of content you're making on Instagram. And I think for me, there's a similar thing that I can trace across all of my content I've ever made on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, which it's two things. Like, I'm excited about the expression side of content. I think it's fun as an art form, but I also have a deep love and passion for other creative people, particularly if they are kind of stuck and not at the point yet where they're doing what they want to do. I always have like a piece of that in my content, to think about them and want to help them and give them hope and excitement, like, oh, Mike's doing it and he's just a regular guy. I can do it too. And honestly, like, hearing those comments from people that have experienced something from that, for me, has been really huge. So I'll leave it to you to give the final word. Any final bits of advice, and then we'll sign off.
Yeah, if I had to give one final piece of advice for growing your personal brand, it would be to kind of like what we've been saying, just think about what your goals are and think about who you want to be in the digital space, and if that is lining up with who you are in the real world. Because I think that is something that I see often, is that people online are living very different lives than they are in person. And that just, I don't know, I have negative thoughts about that.
Yeah.
I think it's important to be genuine. I think that's how you build strong communities in digital spaces, is by showing how things really are and finding ways to relate with your audience, not by showing like that perfect lifestyle that people often talk about on social media. So yeah, just being genuine and being true to who you are, even when you're in the digital space.
Nice. Honestly, that's right around my same thoughts. So guys, best of luck with your personal brand. If you have any questions, send us an email, comment, whatever you see this on or hear this on, let us know. Have a wonderful day. See you next time.
Bye.